back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraff.
And I'm Cathrine, co-host and bestie.
Welcome back to the Pod Lab, Cathrine.
Thank you.
It's been a minute. We missed an episode.
We did.
And we're going to get into that today because today we're talking about grieving after your mother passes away.
Yeah.
And that has happened now with your mom, who, as we've mentioned many times before on the show, she had Alzheimer's.
Right.
And just passed away at the age of 81.
Right.
So we're going to get into that, friends. We decided to take a little break from our How to Enjoy Your Life series that we're just about halfway through, I think, aren't we? Like
I think so.
4 episodes in. So we'll get back to that next week. But we wanted to talk about this because I've experienced it and Cathrine now has experienced it, losing our moms. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about Cathrine's experience, my experience. As always, we have some scripture to share with you, some encouragement, and a call to action.
Always do.
Always a call to action. And before we get into all of that, please help any brand new listeners to understand how they can support us, Cathrine.
They can go to tracydegraff.com and there'll be some prompts to take you to where you can donate. And we use Patreon as our platform for donating. That helps us.
We actually don't use Patreon anymore because they increased their fees.
We don't?
No. The people the people that signed up with Patreon before,
that's right.
They were grandfathered in, so we're keeping that the same.
Oh, right.
But we use Square, which they didn't do anything weird with their fees.
Okay.
But it is at my website. I'm just saying. Just so that they don't go to Patreon's website.
Yeah.
But go to tracydegraff.com, TracyDegraaf.com. Click on podcast, and you will see it there. And we're going to have our own website eventually. We're working on that. It's coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there you go.
All that to say, let's dive in. Cathrine, first of all, as you know, you have my deepest sympathies and condolences as you've been through this experience. And it's really been a couple of weeks really filled with a lot of emotions.
Yeah, and still is, right?
Yeah, and processing and all of that. So do you want to just share with our audience what you've been through and what it was like?
Most listeners probably know that my mom had Alzheimer's, and it's been a journey, and in a way that's a long goodbye.
Oh, it is, yeah.
But I do have to say, though, that this came up, we weren't expecting this 2 weeks ago. So about a week and a half ago, I was visiting my mom, and one of the directors came up to me and said, it's probably time to call in palliative hospice. So, and then she talked to me how that doesn't mean end of life and all of that. And so I was in agreement because we talked about that she'll get her food mashed up and she'll get, extra care. She'll get a special wheelchair. And so I was prepared for that.
Sure.
And again, it was approximately a week and a half ago. And so I went to the meeting and met with the folks that were the hospice people. And during the meeting, I started to catch on, like, this doesn't seem like palliative. And so then I said something to that effect, and she goes, oh, no, this is hospice, regular hospice. And I said, oh, if that's what the gal told me on the phone, that's not what I heard. And I had explained that that's what we talked about with the director there. So anyway, I was in for quite the shock, even with just that.
Right.
So then the hospice nurse that was behind the scenes, she was visiting my mom in my mom's room, and then she came to join us in the meeting, and then that's when she said she it might be a week or 2 weeks that she'd pass. So I was in quite a shock,
right?
Because my mom had stopped eating for about a week, and I didn't know that either. I knew she was having trouble chewing, and I knew that she wasn't hungry or what. I didn't really know. I just know that she was thinner.
She's struggling.
Yeah, but she hadn't eaten in a week. I didn't realize that. So it was all such a shock.
Oh, sure.
And by the way, I had always heard that Alzheimer's, if you make it to that far, that they starve to death because they forget how to chew and swallow. But these folks told me that's not true.
Okay.
They're just not hungry. I don't know how they know that. I mean, how can you possibly know that? But I guess from observation and so forth, they can tell whether or not someone's hungry. I don't know. But so she didn't suffer in that way, I don't think, according to them. So that's good. But so then the very next day, which would have been Thursday, they said that it looks like it's going to be sooner than we thought, 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
And so we had 3 days to sit with her in her room. It was awful because it was so thin, and she was not verbal, and she really wasn't on many pain meds at first. I think that well into the second day that she had just a little bit of morphine. But it was very sad, very emotional.
Sure.
But we got to talk to her. I know she heard us.
Yeah, you could
like
tell.
her eye movement.
Yeah.
Every now and then she let out a sound,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hard. It really. But hospice, okay, they were great, and even somebody said, I've never seen this particular service that they did before, not with any other hospice company.
Yeah.
They had a musician come in, this young man named Marcus, and for such a young man to use his talents the way he did, he sang. He had a keyboard and he set it up in my mom's room, and he sang beautiful songs that he knew that would speak to her. And then he even learned one overnight. So when he came back the next day, he sang this Roger Whittaker song. It was so touching and moving and really beautiful. The chaplain came in with her little dog, Gracie.
Mm-hmm. A little therapy
dog, exactly. Of course, and then the nurses, like their the care and their demeanor was just soft and gentle. It makes that whole process so much easier or lighter.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you had just some inconsiderate,
yeah, and that Marcus who was there, because I was with Cathrine for a good portion of those 3 days, and Marcus he said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." And he leaves the room, and he comes back with a bag for tissues because there was tears and there was no garbage can in the room. So he comes back with a bag for tissues, and then he goes out again and he comes back with an extra chair because there were 4 of us in there and not an extra chair. So he was so perceptive on what the family needed as well as what Doreen needed. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful.
He was. And we got quiet for a while, and he said, I want you can talk, and I could just be in the background singing. He's like, don't stop talking. And very, very perceptive. Yeah.
And his singing voice, he sang like he could be on American Idol. He could be a recording artist somewhere. He sang like an angel.
That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah.
Like if he could wear angel wings and a halo and a white robe.
Yeah.
He was just a gift, a real gift to the whole situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a blessing.
Yeah. So.
Oh, and the other thing that hospice did for the family was they set up a hospitality tray. And so they put juices and coffee and little like muffins and.
I think that was Porter Place.
Well, whoever did it, there was a hospitality tray there.
Yeah,
and
it was
just really nice that they thought of those extra needs because people were there for the most part throughout the waking hours, and then at night, would go home and sleep and come back.
Yeah.
So.
And I have to say, too, that Porter Place, so hospice was great, but Porter Place, where my mom was living, they were great, too.
They were.
They really, so.
And it was a memory care facility, which if anybody is on that journey of assisted living versus memory care, Cathrine has
a lot to say.
She's learned a lot.
We're going to do an episode in the future about Alzheimer's. So, but anyway, then Mom passed on the 3rd day.
Yeah, she did.
I got a call. It's very, very hard to leave when you're not sure when she's going to pass. Yeah. And I know I was the last one in the room this 3rd day, and I don't know. I just had a feeling, and I was
Yeah.
able to hold her hand for a while on my own and talk to her and say all the things I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I said a prayer, but anyway, then 3:40 in the morning, I got a phone call, and
Yeah.
it was, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Just tough, but
Very tough.
then her service was beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you. Tracy did the eulogy, and it was very fitting. It was very personal. And and the video that you and Olivia put together, it was just beautiful. So good.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that Cathrine had brought up to the memory care facility on that last day, on the third day that her mom was in hospice, and they had said, we don't know, this could take, you know, they kind of went back and forth. They said it could be 12 to 48 hours. And then at other times they said, well, I've seen patients that have lasted, you know, for 7 days with no food or no water. So there was really no way of knowing. So on that third day, Cathrine brought up a big tub of photographs up to the room just to sort through them and kind of prepare them for the services to have like on poster boards or whatever. And I felt like that was healing.
It was, yeah.
You know,
It was.
And I think as a mother, if I were in that position where I was leaving the earth and I couldn't talk, I would love to be able to hear my children going through old pictures and having memories talked about, you know, good memories.
Yeah, and have all your children there doing that.
Yeah. So
Kinda
that was
coming together.
that. I thought that was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah. And our church family was really a blessing to you as well.
Very
Why don't you
much
say
so.
a little bit about that? What it means to you to have a faith family
Yeah.
behind you when you're going through a grieving thing like that?
It's almost hard to explain because, well, one thing that is easy to explain, just the comfort and support, because we belong to a small group, and our small group is a big group. So
Yeah.
they all came, and they have been with me on this journey,
Yeah.
and they've prayed about all of this. And so there's that connection that it's like an understanding. It's a shared
Yeah.
burden, maybe. And so having them be supportive in the journey is one thing. Having them come to the service is another as well, because especially at the end, when they came up, you know, and passed by with their last condolences and hugs, I just couldn't stop crying because I just felt like spirit filled, and just the sense of love and support.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, it meant a lot to me. It really did. It's weird, hard to explain almost.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I love our faith family. I call it our faith family because it is. It's a family. And I would encourage anybody that can hear my voice right now, if you don't have a church that you're established in, find one. Just ask the Lord to provide one for you, and put yourself out there to attend. And go to some extra things, like go to a Bible study, get to know some people.
Small groups.
Yeah.
Volunteer. That's right.
Yeah.
That's how you get to know.
You get invested, and then you care about others and they care about you, and it's a beautiful way to go about life.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Anything else that you wanted to share about your experience?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if it pops in, then you can retell it.
I thought that I would share as well from my experience, having lost my mom 30 years ago, which is a long time ago. And so she died in 1993. I was 27 years old at the time of her death. And on the day she died was the same day that Cathrine and Kenny got married.
Yeah.
Which we didn't know each other then.
No. And how different that day was for me from you.
Yeah. Yeah, but God knew that we would become besties down the road. And my mom was so young when she was diagnosed with bone cancer. She was only 47 when she was diagnosed. And that was a real blow to our family. I had just graduated from college. And, was I? Let's see. Yeah, I had just graduated from college when she got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how that was, because I was a young mother when she passed.
Yeah.
Okay. She lived with the disease for 4.5 years,
And back then, she had to go to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota from Illinois. They didn't have anybody really here that treated. It's multiple myeloma was the name of the disease. They've come a long way in treating that.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, because I know somebody from our other church who did get it and lived with it for like 8 years, where my mom lived 4.5, and they thought that was a long time back then. But, you know, when you get that word that your mother has a terminal disease or she's passed, I mean, that's just a tough blow for anyone. And, you know, we were talking about this in the memorial service with your mom. Catherine's mom, Doreen, moved to America from England when she was in her early 20s and got married, and her mom then passed away only a little while after she came to the United States. And that burden of grief had to be a heavy one for her to carry her whole life.
It was, yeah.
And then sadly, only a few years after that, her dad passed away. So here was Catherine's mom. You're not orphaned when both of your parents are gone, but it feels that way because your parents are gone, right?
Right.
So she was a young woman when she had to deal with that kind of grief, where I would assume that many of her friends were not bearing that same load, you know? And that's a lonely position to be in. And I could relate to that to a level because I lost my mom so young. And none of my young friends were losing their moms. You know, like when my young friends had their babies, their moms came to help with the baby and, you know, just be there. And I never experienced that because my mom was so sick during my first baby and my second baby. So it's very difficult. The mother's love is undeniable. I like to think about how when you're a mom, your baby is inside of you, your baby's heart is beating and your heart is beating. And these two hearts are beating together, and I don't know if they like sync up or
I don't know, but it's a miracle nonetheless.
They get a rhythm, you know, down. I don't know. But I mean, I know what it was like to be carrying my 5 children, not all at once, thank God. But, you know, you would feel them move and you would feel them kick and they would roll over. And there's just a special bond between a mother and her child.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, if you nurse your babies or whatever, there's just such a special bond there.
Yeah.
So when you have to say goodbye on this earth to that maternal being, that bond, I don't think the bond is broken. I think it's painful because it's stretched, right? Because you don't have in your case with Alzheimer's, you didn't have the connection that you would have liked to have had with your mother, with her faculties all being intact.
Right.
So you grieve each little part of that. And now we have the death of the physical death of the body, but the spirit lives on. So now we have that connection in that way.
Absolutely. Even if, you know, you've had like a messy relationship, let's just say, in between, it's still your mother. It's still the person who raised you, you know, and it's still still painful, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm not saying that things were a mess necessarily with my mom. I mean, there were definitely times we had our differences. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but gosh, it is your mother. It's the person that raised you.
Yeah. And, you know, after, like, it's very fresh for you because it's only been a week. For me, it's been 3 decades. You know, I think I was sharing this with you that when my mom passed, she was only 51, but she looked like she was 100. Like her body was just down to skin and bones. Yeah. And it was really hard to get that out of my visual memory initially. Obviously now it's been 30 years. And so I just look back at, like, I have that picture over there on the wall.
Yeah.
That was before my mom was diagnosed. Like not too long before my mom was diagnosed, that picture was taken at my college graduation. And she had bone cancer at that time. Didn't know it. So what I'm getting at is it's a beautiful thing when the grief process brings you down the road to the point where you can not forget, but I guess just stop visualizing the illness, the sickness, the challenges that were at hand. and you can go back and extract the fun, the good, the laughter, the love.
Yeah.
It really is. And like I put together the eulogy for Catherine's mom, and I was really like struggling. How do I do this? I've never done anything like that.
No.
Even like at my mom's service, her best friend did the eulogy.
Oh.
And she read little statements from each one of us. So we wrote things down and she read it. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful and hard to do.
Yeah.
Could you imagine doing that for your bestie?
I know. I was just thinking.
Don't start crying, Cathrine. Don't do it.
How are we going to do that?
Oh. Well, anyway, when I sat down and I was praying about how to honor your mom, and I was thinking about that whole thing that I just said, like when you've been through this long goodbye and it's really difficult, how do you extract the good? I tried to do that to the best of my ability when I went back, to what are the things that Doreen loved?
Yeah.
And then who are the people that love Doreen, And I talked about her love for England. Mm-hmm. And that was easy to talk about.
Yeah.
And everybody knew that about her.
Yeah.
Because she still had a British accent. I mean, she was 81 years old and she had been in this country since the 60s. But her British accent was still there.
Even with her disease.
Yeah, it was.
I was listening to some videos of her just, I don't know, yesterday maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, it was wonderful to go back and look at her life because sometimes we're so focused in on the here and now and what we're dealing with right this second. But if you take a bird's eye view and just take a snapshot and just pull out the things and extract the things that you really want to celebrate and remember, because we all have those seasons of life where, let's not remember that hard time, or let's just consider that growth.
Right. Let's.
We grew.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, we're really blessed to have had our mothers, even though, I really would have loved to have had my mother raising my children, because that's, your role. And you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. These teenagers, they're driving me crazy.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had my mother, but I found that God put in my life other women who were a season ahead of me, who were kind of surrogate mothers in a way.
Yeah.
They just kind of step in. People in my church, of course, my mother-in-law. I have two mother-in-laws that both have just been wonderful. Your mom even, like doing things with you and your mom made me feel like, I have a mom. I have a mom.
Well, she loved you.
No.
She did.
Unless I dominated too much of your time, then she was like, "Are you with Tracy?"
Yeah, she would sometimes think that. Yeah, yeah. I was sometimes afraid to tell her that I was down here.
Right, and you weren't giving her enough attention.
What about me?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But no, I loved your mom as well, and I miss her, and I believe now that she's whole and she's well.
Yeah.
And we shared some scripture about that too, just about how God is love, and from 1 John chapter 4, I think it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she loved deeply.
She did.
She did.
She did. She was a passionate person for sure. Woman.
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
Yeah. I was just looking and listening to some videos that it was just a month ago.
Yeah.
And she was talking. Now, she was verbal, but there would be mumbling in between. But I was a little surprised because in my mind, she's been, babbling longer than I thought. But she was still talking about a month ago. I don't know why I just brought that up, but I was just thinking about her accent and, and she was in one of the videos. I can't remember what she said, but it was something funny about someone else, one of the other residents. And she did her typical. It's weird because like her disease made her seem like either like super, super old or also like a child.
Yeah.
So, but when she does this, she used to do this gesture that was like it's like a tut and a quick lift of the head is very, very English in my opinion. I see a lot of English people do this, and they kind of just go like, up. What's up with that person?
Yeah.
And she did it.
Yeah.
Like just a month ago about another resident because she didn't see herself as
a resident.
One of them. and she just was like, oh, look at that bugger, you know.
She would call people cheeky bugger.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
And
She always had the wit.
She did, and her sense of sarcasm never left her, even with Alzheimer's. Like, there were a few times when the family needed some fill-in help to go and sit with Doreen when they were on vacation or whatever. So I went a few times and did that. And it was amazing to me. She laughed at all my jokes, Cathrine.
Yeah, right.
She would get
you're funny for one thing.
Duh.
And she just would get
She gets
the
it.
wits.
Yeah.
She might say over and over, watching like a crime show, let's just say, and she'll say, who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? And then you tell her 100 times, and she won't believe it if the bad guy is good looking.
Right.
There's no way he's the bad guy.
Murderer.
So she wouldn't grasp that, but
Right.
she would grasp the wit.
Which is fascinating,
Yeah.
like the brain, right? Because Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain. Well, there's certain portions of the brain that give you whatever, your sense of humor or wit or whatever, and she just had it.
And it's funny,
It was
too,
beautiful.
because she would, my whole life, she'd say, and I did not include this in the little Doreenisms that you asked for,
yeah.
but my whole life, she would say, sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. And yet,
She enjoyed it.
she would very much think certain things were funny.
One of Cathrine and my also friend who lives here in town, Dee, she was a caregiver for Doreen as well.
Yeah.
And Dee went out of her way to find British comedies
Yes.
that Doreen could watch.
Oh, and
She would laugh
that.
and laugh and laugh. And it was such a blessing because laughter is truly healing for the brain. So anybody who has a brain issue, whether it's depression or bipolar issues or Alzheimer's issues or whatever, if you can find something that makes you laugh, it gives the brain a break.
It's a release, for
It
sure.
is. And we need that. So consider that, my friends, if you're going through something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
What else did we want to share about our experience? Oh, I wanted to share a little bit about our hospice experience. Even though it was 30 years ago, we didn't have like a music therapist or a therapy dog that came in or anything like that, but we had hospice nurses. They came with information.
Yeah.
They shared a lot of information of the natural processes that the body goes through when it is shutting down.
Yeah.
And, because you do think, like, we have our normal thinking, well, you need food to live, you need water to live, and all that. But death comes to everybody, and the body just shuts down, and the organs quit working.
Yeah.
And so they helped with understanding when you see that I forget now, like the fingernails were going to turn a certain color, and there was fever here and there.
Did they tell you about modeling?
I don't remember. It's been so long, but I know that they did for your mom.
Yeah, and I did not know that was until a week ago.
Yeah, and it's something to do with circulation because the heart slows down so much that it can't pump like healthy blood to the extremities.
And
so
usually starts at the feet and goes up. And the reason that the hospice people were informative to us too, but at one point the nurse was looking at her legs and I said, what's that? Because she had it looked like purple bruises on her knees. And that's when she said I thought she said modeling, like with the D, modeling, but it's mottling with a T. T's. Anyway, that's how we found that out.
Yeah. Well,
but it's so helpful when they're informative, when they tell you what's happening.
Right, because then when you know what to expect, okay, and you know that it's a natural process, you know that your loved one's not in pain.
It's not so scary.
Right, because it is very sad anyway, just to be accepting this, even though you knew your mom was very ill and she wasn't going to get better. There wasn't like a course for correction.
No.
Or to come back, Same thing with my mom. She had terminal cancer. I mean, the night she died, I stayed up with her. She died at home, in my childhood home. And I was just pacing and praying that God would do a miracle. I was like, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
and he didn't, and he could do it. He didn't choose to do it. But that's just that's the faith that we have. And we just have to keep going with the Lord. He reaches down into our meltdowns, into our mess,
That's
into
right.
our deepest emotions, and he holds our hand through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, anything else that you wanted to share?
No, not that. No.
Well, friends, we have scripture. Let me look it
Good.
up. I forgot to pull it up, so let me pull it up.
Psalm
39. 139.
139, 13 through 14.
139, 13-14. Okay. AI pulls it up first. It's not even the right verse. Okay. Here it is. It's Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14. And this is the New International Version. It says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well."
The comfort that is, right?
It is.
And it's nice and fitting for, we had mothers.
It truly is. And, Mother's Day is coming up around the corner.
So-
To graph men.
So, which brings us to our call to action.
Yes, call your mother.
Yeah.
That's our call to action. If you
Ring,
were
ring.
if you were blessed to have your mother on this earth, just stop everything and make a call. Call your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell her you're thinking of her and, ask her how her day's going. Send her some flowers. I'll talk to my tribe.
Yeah.
Send me a gift certificate for a massage, please.
Very, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this has been a good episode, Cathrine. It's good to process these thoughts and emotions and share. And so thank you for sharing your very fresh pain with our audience. And we will be back next week with episode 219, and we'll continue our series on how to enjoy your life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you've
Okay.
been listening to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraff.
I'm still Cathrine.
See you next time.